In this video, I'll show you the layout of the Edward Sargent Wildlife Area in northern New Mexico and highlight a few hiking options. It's just outside Chama and offers great trails and also a dispersed camping area. So let's start by looking at the map. When we were trying to find some info on hiking trails in the Edward Sargent Wildlife Area, it was surprisingly tough to track down good maps online. So most really didn't show the trails very clearly. But at the first parking area, there's a map posted on an informational sign right as you enter the wildlife area. It's not the easiest thing to read or to get details from, but I'll walk you through it. And then I'll show you a couple other maps so you can get a better sense of where to hike or camp in the area. So first off, you're going to see this yellow outline, and that's the boundary of the Edward Sargent Wildlife Area. It goes all the way up to the Colorado border, so you can see the Colorado-New Mexico border right there. And just for some scale, the distance from the parking area up to the border is about 7.5 miles. So it's about a 15-mile round trip. So that kind of gives you a sense of how big the place is. And then if you go to the legend down here, it breaks down what's on the map. And you can see there's a campground, there's fishing areas, there's horse corral, there's areas for horse riding, parking, there's bathrooms, viewing platform, and some other things. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's there on it. Let's see, the first hike that we did was this little one right here. It kind of goes right off the main parking area, and it's called the Elk Interpretive Trail, and we'll show you that one in a little bit. That's what you'll see on all trails and some other apps, but really some of the other trails just aren't even listed anywhere as far as we could tell. So it's a little trail right here that I'll show you some pictures of. And if you zoom around, you can kind of get a sense of some of the other trails in the area. We've got, horse trails, which are also open to people walking around. This road is open to walkers and bikers. Every area in here is closed to motor vehicles, so you can't take your motorcycle or dirt bike or anything like that in there. So this shows you kind of the elevation gains using the squiggly lines here. You can see there's the Rio Chamita, which is a smaller version of the Rio Chama. Feeds into the Rio Chama, which is the big one that goes right through the town of Chama. So just kind of gives you an idea. So we'll walk you through some of this in a minute. So this second map provides a bit more information about the layout of the parking and camping areas, because that was kind of condensed in the other map. So when you first pull in, you'll come to a parking lot area for cars. And then if you continue walking down that road, which is this road right here, you'll come to the start of the Elk Viewing Interpretive Trail, which is right here. And then you'll also see the vault toilets and the corrals for horses. And let's see, the campground is right behind that, and I'm going to show you those later in the video. And then the road here is called the Sargent Main Road, and it stays open year-round for hikers and bikers. But other areas of the park, of the wildlife area, close during elk calving season, which runs from May 15th to June 15th every year. So if you come for that month, between May 15th and June 15th, you can only hike or bike right here. The other areas are going to be completely closed. So I'll start the hike around by starting us here in the parking area and walking to the start of the short Elk Viewing Interpretive Trail to this little lookout point right here. You start by walking down the road from the first parking area. It's just a short distance, but will take you to the area where the start of the Elk Interpretive Trail is, as well as the area with the vault toilets, corrals, and the dispersed camping area. Back behind me, you can see one of the toilets with the camping area behind that. We came across this really cool setup for pulling a horse trailer. I have no idea what it is, but it looks really cool. And in front of that rig is the start of the Elk Interpretive Trail. It's right through the stone area with a sign. And the sign is faded from the sun, so it's a bit difficult to read, but you get the gist that this is the start of that trail. There's a plaque at the start of the trail that says that the Edward Sargent Fish and Wildlife Area was designated on July 24th, 1978. Edward Sargent was a rancher from the area that sometimes got into trouble with the authorities, so you can read all about it online. The Elk Interpretive Trail is probably the best known hiking trail here, and it shows up on All Trails and other hiking apps. It's an easy out and back trail, just under a mile round trip, and it starts right near the parking area. It's a great option for families or anyone just looking for a short, relaxed walk. You'll cross over 2 bridges over the Rio Chimito, which was dry when we visited at the beginning of May. And about halfway up the trail, you'll come to this plaque for a wildlife biologist, along with a bench nearby for resting if needed. The plaque is dedicated to Laurel Kagan Wiley, who is recognized for her achievements as an avid hunter and wildlife restoration professional. It's a really easy trail with only a slight uphill at the end. The Edward Sargent Wildlife Management Area covers over 20,000 acres. It's one of the biggest properties managed by the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish, and it has a mix of high meadows, oak groves, dense forests, and small streams. And this area is known for having one of the largest elk herds in the state. You can also see deer, black bears, coyotes, and a variety of other birds. We didn't see anything besides birds when we visited, but perhaps you will. And it's a good spot for wildlife viewing and taking photos if you're into that kind of thing. It's some really scenic panoramic areas. We came across this big nest in a tree, which I think is possibly a magpie nest, but I'm not sure, and I'm not an expert by any means. If you happen to know, drop a comment. And since this Sargent Wildlife Area is home to one of the largest elk herds in New Mexico, there are signs at the beginning and the end about elk ecology and their life cycle. And at the end of the trail, there's also an interpretive exhibit. But just a heads up, when we visited in May 2025, both the sign at the start of the trail and the sign at the viewing area were pretty faded and hard to read. You'll come to the end of the trail with a nice viewing area, which I'm assuming has great options for wildlife viewing, but we didn't see anything when we were there in the middle of the day in May. This map right here is using Google Earth, and it shows you the town of Chama, and it shows you the Edward Sargent Wildlife Management Area right here. And I wanted to show you kind of the elevation gain of the trail that we just did, and then where we go from here. So if you zoom in here, we can see that this is where we parked our car, and then we walked down here to this area where the start of the Elk Viewing Trail, Elk Interpretive Viewing Trail started right here. And then we did this route right here. We went over this little bridge. We kept on going up here, went around. That was where that first plaque was, and a little bench for seating. And then crossed another bridge and just kept on going up here to the viewing area. But it's really not that steep. I just wanted to show you that. So this way we're kind of looking on Google Earth, and I'm showing you kind of the elevation gain. You can see it's slightly uphill, and then it goes down a little bit, and then again just a little bit more up to the top. So it's really not a bad hike. It's pretty level most of the way. So then we got up here to the very top, and we were not sure where to go. This is a huge area, so we decided to kind of take our chances and try and get, let me spin myself around here, try and get to this trail, which wasn't the main road trail, but looked like it was an interesting option for us. So we thought we'd try and go from the viewing area, which was over here, to here. So we kind of made a cross-country journey over to this place right here. And so that's where we're going to head over to right now. We weren't on a defined trail at first. We just started making our way across the wildlife area, aiming for the main trail you can see on the map earlier. It was kind of a pick-your-own-path situation, and we had to check our phones a few times to make sure we were still headed in the right direction. The terrain was mostly flat and easy to walk across, with just a few spots to watch out for. Some old fences had been torn down, and there was leftover barbed wire on the ground in places. It's not always easy to see, so keep your eye out for that. Eventually, we made it to the official trail on the map. From there, we started uphill, moving towards areas with more scrub oak and higher elevation. You can see why this grassland is a favorite for elk. Plenty of grass to graze and several water holes scattered around. The views were incredible in every direction. That big New Mexico sky with dramatic clouds overhead was putting on a show here at the Sargent Wildlife Area. We had water with us for the dogs, but one of them loves to swim, so we checked the map and found a nearby water hole to check out. It ended up being more of a muddy pit, but that was perfect for our dog, who had a blast cooling off and getting filthy. As we gained a bit of elevation, we noticed a storm cloud rolling in. We kept an eye on it and decided to keep the hike short. Out here, lightning can be a really serious danger. We continued a little farther up through the scrub oak. It climbed gradually, but the terrain stayed mostly flat, but the views opened up even more. Off in the distance, you could see the mountains, thicker forests, more pine, and lots of places for wildlife to hide. It looked like a great area to explore, but given the weather, we decided not to push it. To use the Sargent Wildlife Area, all hikers, bikers, etc. must have a valid permit from New Mexico. One permit is good for up to 4 adults, and the cost is reasonable, so be sure to check the latest regulations from the state about which permits are required. You can buy a permit online or at local vendors in Chama. So we just kept following the trail all the way back to the main camping area. You'll come to this gate up here that you can walk through there on the right of that. You don't have to open the gate. And then I'll show you the campground here. So this map is from Google Earth, and it shows you the layout of the Sargent Wildlife Area parking and camping areas are. So we just came in from this trail right here, and we entered down here, and you can see in here, this is all the dispersed camping area. So there's a lot of room available. It's really just a park your camper and find a spot to camp. The restrooms are located right here. These are the vault toilets right here. So there's facilities available, making it a little bit more comfortable for yourself. When we parked, we came in right here and just parked in the main parking area since we weren't camping or anything. And then again, we hiked down here and started to that main Elk Viewing Trail right there. These are the horse corrals right here, which I'll show you in the video in just a minute. But you can see this is the large camping area. There's plenty of room for everybody, and you can just really park anywhere you want to. Camping is only allowed in the designated camping area, which is this, from July 1st to November 15th each year, and there aren't any hookups or water available, so be sure to come with everything you need. There are the vault toilets, as I mentioned, which come in handy if your camping setup doesn't include a bathroom. And no additional fees are required for camping beyond the access permit fees for hiking, etc. in the area. But hunters must follow a different set of permit rules. So if you're hunting, you know the rules. If you're camping, not necessarily as important. That's the gate we just came through from the trail. Looking behind us, there's a vault toilet and a camper in the designated camping area. And then we just hiked up the road toward the corrals. And you can see there's another vault toilet there. The camping area is relatively flat, as you can see from this video. There are some rutted areas, but mostly you can get around just fine. And if you look closely here, you can see the cell towers up on that mesa. We had excellent cell service here, so that's a plus, especially if you're out hiking and want to use one of your apps for navigation. And from here, we just hiked back up the road to where we parked. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please drop a comment. Thanks for watching.